Hello and welcome to another complete Cambridge IGCSE PE lesson. In this video we'll break down and simplify 18 recent past exam questions on Chapter 6, Health and Wellbeing. If you enjoy this video, consider subscribing to the channel, give the video a thumbs up and visit my channel page for short summary videos and my resource store by clicking the link in the description for complete revision and teaching materials. Let's begin. Question 1 is on topic 6.4. As always, you can head down to the description of this video and find links to the short summary videos which contain literally everything you need to know on Chapter 6. So if you don't understand a question, head down and watch the relevant video, then come back and attempt it. Flexibility and strength are two components of fitness that are important when playing basketball. Explain how flexibility and strength can benefit a performer when playing basketball. So how is it that these two components of fitness, topic 6.4 on components of fitness of course, how is it that these two components benefit a performer when playing basketball? Okay, flexibility. It enables basketball players to take long strides when approaching for a layup. We need flexibility at the hip joint there in order to take the long strides necessary to get as close to the hoop as possible when laying up, and to reach up to release the ball during the layup. So reaching up at the shoulder, that requires some flexibility there as well. Now I've provided two different examples here because this one is worth 4 marks, which means we're going to need to provide 2 examples for flexibility and 2 for strength. Now moving on to strength, this enables players to shield the ball from an opponent, there's 1 mark, go shoulder to shoulder when driving to the basket, that's something else that requires strength or the ability to produce lots of force in one go, and jump to win a rebound. And I've given an orange tick there because that was an additional point that we would have gained a mark for, but it was unnecessary as this one was only worth 4 marks. So I'll just pause this one here. You can take a look at the mark scheme to have a look at some other potential answers that you could have gone for there. Okay, question 2, 6.1. Describe 2 possible benefits of joining an extracurricular club for a performer's social health and well-being. So this one was on health and well-being. So 2 benefits of joining a club for a performer's social health. So by joining a club, we develop team or communication skills because we're playing as part of a team. That's going to improve our social skills of communication, and it's also going to provide an opportunity to make friendships, another benefit for our social health. And here are the things that we could have gone for. Okay, the next question on topic 6.5, fitness testing. The table shows rating information for some male and female performers who take the multi-stage abdominal curl conditioning test. So this is our test for muscular endurance. State, using the table, the rating for a male who correctly completes 65 sit-ups during the test. So really simple question, state being the command word. We go to the ratings for males and we look at this column here, the total number of sit-ups completed. If we do at least 64 sit-ups, that gives us a rating for males of fair. So the mark here is awarded for simply stating the word fair. Okay. Name and describe the component of fitness being tested during a multi-stage abdominal curl conditioning test. So this one just follows on from the previous question. The name of the component of fitness being tested is muscular endurance. Okay, but we need to describe that component as well. And the best way to do this is to remember all your definitions for the components of fitness. So the definition of muscular endurance is the ability of muscles to work continuously or for long periods of time without tiring. Okay, so let's have a look at the mark scheme. Muscular endurance for 1 mark, and the ability of muscles to work continually without getting tired or fatiguing for that 2nd mark. So really important to learn the definitions of all the components of fitness. Complete the table to show different physical activities, a key component of fitness required for the physical activity, and the name of a test that could be used to measure each component of fitness. So a simple question because all we need to do is fill in the boxes on the table, and we'll reveal the answers here and go through them one by one. So physical activity, we'll come back to that column in a moment, but we'll start with the component of fitness required. So in this column we have power down the bottom. Okay, so power is a component of fitness required, and we need to select a physical activity that requires lots of power. So I've gone for triple jump. You could have gone for long jump or high jump or javelin or shot put, anything that obviously requires power. And then the name of the test for that component of fitness. Our recognised test for power is the vertical jump test or the Sargent vertical jump test. And then this second row here, we've got gymnastics as our physical activity. and the component of fitness required is balance. How do we know that? Because the name of the test is the standing stalk test, and you should know that that is the test for balance. And then the first row here, we've got cricket as the physical activity, coordination as the component of fitness, and then what is the name of the test for coordination? That's the wall toss coordination test, or the Anderson wall toss coordination test. So again, this just comes down to your knowledge of fitness tests. You need to know the name of all the different fitness tests and the components of fitness that each one tests. Okay, next question, topic 6.6. Explain how 3 factors can affect a performer's VO2 max. So 6.6 is on VO2 max. There aren't that many questions that tend to come up on VO2 max, but we've got a couple to go through here. So you need, in addition to learning the definition of VO2 max and what it means and how it relates to cardiovascular endurance, you need to know the factors that affect someone's VO2 max. And there were a range we could have chosen from: age, gender, genetics, lifestyle, and training. And I've gone for lifestyle in the first one. So smoking reduces oxygen transport in the blood, lowering our VO2 max. We could have just said, if we go down to lifestyle here, that smoking or a sedentary lifestyle, that's one where we don't exercise very much, so 2 different examples there, may prevent VO2 max from improving, or it may lower the VO2 max. So we don't need to go into too much detail. We could have just said smoking lowers VO2 max, and that would have given us the mark. Second point was gender, and men tend to have higher VO2 max values than women. Many reasons why that is the case, including a larger heart on average and therefore a larger stroke volume and cardiac output. And then number 3, we have genetics. So some people simply inherit a higher VO2 max from their parents, so passed down via their DNA. Some of us just are better at consuming and using oxygen in the body. Okay, 6.2. Define the term fitness. So it's really important to know all your basic definitions. If you use the Cambridge textbook, you will find all of the relevant definitions in yellow boxes throughout the book, so they're really easy to identify. And the definition of fitness is the ability to meet the demands of the environment. So a really easy mark there. Just basic study required, and the basic definitions need to be remembered. Okay, next question. Explain the relationship between health and fitness. Okay, so there are lots of points we could make here. The relationship between health and fitness means, how do these 2 things interact? For example, if we have good health, how does that relate to our levels of fitness? If we have good fitness, how does that relate to our levels of health? And the same for if either of these are in bad condition as well. So let's make a couple of points. Poor health may prevent us from exercising. So if we don't have very good health, maybe we have a broken arm as an example, so poor physical health there, that might prevent us from exercising, and that would of course lead to a reduction in fitness. Okay, so we get less fit because we weren't able to exercise. So that's one relationship between the 2 terms here for 1 mark. And then the second mark is going to come from improvements in fitness. So if we do get fitter, that can have a positive impact on our physical and mental health. So imagine we go to the gym and our fitness improves, our mental health might improve in many different respects, and our physical health quite obviously would improve there as well. So let's have a quick look at the mark scheme. We might lose fitness because we have poor health. That was the first point that I made here. We might improve fitness because we have good health. So being in good health enables us to train and therefore improve our fitness. We might have an increase in fitness despite ill health. So we could actually be in poor health, for example, poor social health, but we're still exercising and therefore improving in fitness. So it doesn't always have to be a negative or inverse relationship like the 2 first points. And then finally, exercise and fitness can have positive effects on physical, mental, and social health. So a pretty broad point there at the bottom. But study the mark scheme if you need to. But we'll move on to our next question, which is to describe requirements for good mental health and well-being. So under health and well-being, topic 6.1, go and watch the video if you need to. You really need to know the requirements for good mental, social, and physical health. And there are about 3 or 4 statements that you need to remember for each one. So aspects of mental well-being include A, the ability to cope with stress, okay, for 1 mark, the ability to control emotions for a 2nd mark, and feeling good about yourself or having high self-esteem. So 3 points made there: coping with stress, controlling emotions, and having high self-esteem or feeling good about yourself. And these were the 3 statements you needed to remember for for mental health and well-being. So you need to remember all of these statements: able to cope with stress, control emotions, and having confidence or self-esteem or feeling good about yourself. Okay, the photograph shows elite cyclists during a professional road race such as the Tour de France. This involves cycling on several days over long distances on both flat and mountainous roads. So just some background information here. This requires high levels of cardiovascular endurance or stamina. Name 3 components of fitness other than cardiovascular endurance or stamina, which means we can't include that one again, required by cyclists in the photograph, and then explain how each component benefits performance at an elite level. So breaking this one down, what do we actually need to do? We need to name 3 components of fitness that long-distance cyclists require, and then explain how each of those components is important or benefits the performance of these cyclists. So let's have a look. First one I've gone for is balance. So this one's worth 6 marks. It's quite clear that we're going to get 3 marks for naming 3 relevant components of fitness, and then the other 3 for explaining how they benefit performance. So balance for 1 mark enables cyclists to maintain stability when cornering or going around corners at speed. So that's an example of how balance benefits performance for those cyclists. Okay, number 2, muscular endurance. So there's another mark there, and I'll just bring up the marks here. Muscular endurance enables cyclists to continue contracting the same muscle groups, for example the quadriceps on the top of the thigh, over long periods of time. And of course this happens in long distance cycling because we're using the same muscles to push the pedals over long durations. Final component is power. Now, how does this benefit performance for the cyclist? Well, power provides the force needed to accelerate for a sprint finish. You could have also talked about a hill climb there as a good example. Now, this is a big mark scheme, and I'll just pause it as we go through, because we would have got 1 mark for any 3 of the components of fitness. We could have gone for any of the components of fitness on this one, other than cardiovascular endurance, which was already mentioned. The other 3 marks, they were going to come from us justifying our choices. So I'll just pause as we go down here. You can pause the video and have a look through these if you like. But agility, the cyclist may need to quickly dismount from their bike if there's a mechanical issue. So it's just an example of how the components could benefit the cyclist by using examples from the cycling event. So there were all the options there. Skip back, pause the video if you need to have a look at the mark scheme. Name and describe a fitness test for cardiovascular endurance. Quite a simple question, this one worth 3 marks. It's telling us to name the fitness test for cardiovascular endurance first. We'll get 1 mark for that. And there were 2 options we could have gone for: the multi-stage fitness test or bleep test, or the 12-minute Cooper run. I've gone for the 12-minute Cooper run, so there's my first mark. And then I'm going to describe that fitness test as well for the 2 remaining marks. So I know I need to make 2 points here. I've made more than 2 just to demonstrate a few different options that you could have gone for. But let's describe the 12-minute Cooper run. First of all, we measure a course, or we use a measured course, such as a running track, something we can measure distance for. Okay. The subject then runs as far as possible within the amount of time available, which is of course 12 minutes. So we use a measured course, the subject runs as far as possible. Then after 12 minutes, the final distance is calculated and it's compared with normative data. Now let's see where the marks come from. There's a couple of orange ones in here because I put much more information than was required. So a measured course is used, for example, a running track, that's 1 mark. Okay. The subject runs as far as possible, that's another mark. Naming the amount of time that they run for is another mark there as well, which in fact, let's just skip down to the 12-minute run information. So just by stating that the test duration is 12 minutes, you would have got a mark there, so I've included that one. The final distance is calculated, so where was that? Calculate the distance covered, you would have got a mark for that one as well, and then compare it with normative data. So the distance covered is compared with standardized normative data. Whenever you're describing a fitness test, it's always a good example to include this final point, that you will always compare your scores with normative data or average data, because that enables you to see how well you've done compared to, let's say, the general population. So am I good, am I average, or am I poor for this particular fitness test? But the key thing here, whenever you need to describe a fitness test, think from start to finish. If you were setting up and completing that test yourself, step by step, what would you do? We find a running track. We run as far as possible within that 12-minute time period. We're going to calculate our distance that we cover, and then we're going to compare it with that normative data. Step by step, you'll cover all your bases and you'll get the marks available. Okay, 6.5, suggest 2 reasons why a coach would regularly test the fitness of an elite performer. This question is a common one, and it's on why do we bother fitness testing? Essentially, what are the benefits of fitness testing for 2 marks? So we need to make 2 points here. Regular fitness testing allows coaches to identify strengths and areas for improvement, or it helps them to identify strengths and weaknesses in their athletes. It can also be used to inform the design of a training program. So if we identify strengths and weaknesses, we can then alter the training program to work on those weaknesses. For example, the program can be adapted to address weaknesses, so I included that one there as well. But really, I've only made 2 points here. Regular fitness testing allows coaches to identify strengths and weaknesses, and it can be used to inform the design of a training program. And there are a few other examples you could have gone for here. It's a really good idea to try and remember all of these reasons as to why we use fitness testing, because this is quite a common question that they do like to ask. So at least to learn a few of the main reasons why fitness testing is used. Okay, describe 2 requirements of good social health and well-being. This question we've done already for mental health and well-being. Remember, you need to remember all of the aspects or requirements of social, mental and physical well-being. Here are 2, having the ability to mix with others and having a value or role to play within society. Any 2 of these 4 potential points would have got you the 2 marks. So really simple question there. Okay, next question on topic 6.4. The diagram shows an elite gymnastics performer. Name a component of fitness other than strength required by the performer in the diagram. Only worth 1 mark. We need to name a component of fitness, so a really simple question. Any component that is required by a gymnast. I've gone for a nice obvious one, flexibility, but you would have got a mark for naming any component of fitness, because of course we can justify the importance of any of these for a gymnast. It all comes down to how we justify our response. Name and describe a recognized test for the component of fitness named in AI. So that was the previous question. So flexibility was the one that I went for. So now I need to name and describe a test for flexibility, and I'm going to get 4 marks for this one if I answer it in full. So very similar to the question a moment ago about fitness testing when we had a look at the 12-minute Cooper run. The name of the test for flexibility is the sit and reach test. That's going to get me my 1st mark. And then I need to make 3 points on describing the sit and reach test. So the subject warms up and removes their shoes. That's 1 mark there already. They sit with straight legs. Let me just pause that one there. They sit with straight legs and feet flat against the sit and reach box. That's another mark. And in fact, if we scroll down, you can pause this one if you answered for balance, coordination, reaction time. Have a look at the stages for each of the fitness tests that we could have gone for. There's sit and reach. So subject warms up thoroughly before performing the test and removes their shoes. That was my 1st point there. They sit with straight legs and feet flat against the box. That's the 2nd mark. They reach forward as far as they can with both hands. Where can we find that one? Subject reaches forward with both arms extended as far as possible along the box. So there's another mark. And then finally I've put down, this was unnecessary because I've already made my 3 points there, but the distance is recorded and compared with normative data. As I mentioned already, you should always try and make that point when describing any fitness test. And we'll just go through the final fitness tests here. Power, vertical jump test there, speed, the 30-meter sprint test. So skip back and pause and have a look at the points you could have included for any of the fitness tests. If you're marking your own work, if you had a go at that question. Topic 6.5, suggest 2 reasons for carrying out fitness tests on an elite performer. So 2nd time we've had this question already. It comes down to the reasons for fitness testing. So there's the mark scheme again, same mark scheme as before. Really good idea to remember the reasons for fitness testing. Why is it that we fitness test? I've gone for allows performers to assess their suitability for different physical activities. For example, if I score really highly on cardiovascular tests like the 12-minute Cooper run, but really poorly on power tests like the vertical jump, then I might be better off for going for physical activities that require endurance and stamina as opposed to power-based activities. Second point, it helps to monitor progression to see whether or not the training is effective, and with that information, of course, we could adapt our training program to make it effective. So are we progressing or not? By fitness testing, we can easily see whether we are progressing or not. Okay. Define the term VO2 max. I already mentioned not many questions come up on VO2 max, but define VO2 max is quite a common one. So the definition of VO2 max is the volume of oxygen that can be consumed while exercising at a maximum capacity. 1 mark for that one. Quite a simple question, or a very simple question. You just need to remember your definitions, so do put some time into revising definitions. Topic 6.6, another one on VO2 max here. The diagrams show performers in 3 different athletic activities. So we have a sprint hurdler, 1500 meter runner, and a javelin thrower. Identify which of these activities generally requires the higher VO2 max. Okay, so we need to first identify which one requires the highest VO2 max, and then give 2 reasons why this activity requires a high VO2 max. So first of all, let's identify which one requires the highest VO2 max. Since VO2 max is all about consuming oxygen and it's linked to cardiovascular endurance or stamina, the 1500 meter runner here requires those things much more than a javelin thrower or sprint hurdler, because javelin and sprint hurdling, these are over very quickly and they're extremely high intensity, whereas our 1500 meter runner, it's a bit lower in intensity and therefore relies a lot more on oxygen. So 1500 meters was the answer for 1 mark, and we've got to come up with a couple of reasons as to why this one requires a higher VO2 max than the other 2. So the activity is the most aerobic activity. It's much more aerobic than these 2, which are much more anaerobic. So that's 1 mark there already. And then the activity is also longer in duration. And that means oxygen is required to produce energy. Because the 1500 meters lasts a little bit longer than the other exercises, we need oxygen to produce energy, because remember, anaerobic respiration only lasts for a very short period of time. So a few points we could have gone for there. So take a look through those ones. These 2 have been covered, but there are a few alternatives as well. But we're going to skip on to, in fact, that was the last question on Chapter 6, Health and Wellbeing. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and leave a comment down below if you have any suggestions for how these videos could be improved. As always, I hope you found this lesson useful, and I'll see you next time for 14 questions on Chapter 7, Training.